Cody, would you mind giving the invocation, please?
Skjolnätterna och idag till glöna det. Thank you, Father, for this time and fellowship together, Lord. Thank you for helping us all come together as one for the betterment of the Cherokee people, and continue to guide us on the right path and to help to better our communities and guide us in the right direction, Lord. In Jesus' name, amen.
Thank you, Cody. Shelley, can you do roll call?
Absolutely. Daryl Legg,
Here.
Melvina Shot Pouch, Sasha Black Fox Qualls, Danny Callison, Julia Coates, Joe Deere, Mike Dobbins, Kevin Easley, Lisa Hall, Johnny Kidwell, Dora Petzkowski, Cody Poindexter, Joshua Sam, Mike Shambaugh, E.O. Smith, Condessa Teehee, Kendra McGady, and would you like to be a member?
I will, thank you.
We have a quorum.
Thank you, Shelley. If you've had time to review the minutes, can I get a motion? We got a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Move it on to reports. Human Services, Jennifer Kirby.
Good afternoon, Council. You have my report. I'll be happy to answer any questions. I do have one thing that I would that I would like to mention. An important thing that I would like to mention. Our child support program at the end of last month of September. It'll be in the next report. However, I feel it needs mentioning that they were awarded the Platinum Program Award, which means, exemplary actions and exemplary program within child support across Indian Country. So that was awarded by the Western Intergovernmental Child Support Engagement Council. So they received that at the Nevada conference last month. So their hard work and actions that they do over there are being recognized across Indian Country. So very proud of them for that.
All right, thank you. That's good news. Jennifer, for the winter LIHEAP applications, do you know when that's going to happen?
So those will be mailed out
Okay.
at the end of this week. And that is for those that are already on the program, elderly and disabled. And we'll get kind of a better schedule out, and I'll get that sent out. But next week will be some open time for those that are elderly and disabled and not currently on the program. So they may be on the state program, or they may just be turning the correct age to be considered elderly but not disabled, or they may just have become disabled within a year's time and have not ever applied for LIHEAP. So that will be starting next week, I believe, for them to come in and sign up if they are not on the program currently. So they have to have had a time of like a year off of the state program. So
Okay.
sometimes we get people who are switching from the state program to the tribal program. And then, so you have the ones that are already been on the program before, they will get their stuff mailed out to them. Then you have a period of those that want to be on the program, elderly or disabled. There's that week, possibly next week, where they can come in and apply. And then in December, we are able to open it up to everyone, low income. So it's a priority. Elderly and disabled are always our top priority.
Okay.
So
What about the winter coat program? Are we doing that?
that was included in your funds for the school. The school assistance or the clothing assistance. The extra funds were put in there when they applied for the summer clothing or the
Okay.
clothing assistance in the summertime for the school. You had the school and then you had the winter funding. So the 150 was for both.
Okay. Do we have any other questions for Kevin?
So regarding LIHEAP, if for some reason somebody believes that maybe their packet was lost in the mail or they didn't receive it or anything, can they just show up to a satellite office?
Yes, yes, and we, we research it, make sure that we have that, but if they fall in those categories, we will do everything we can to get them their application. We just ask that elderly and disabled are priority, and then the other category, as we kind of call it internally, is low-income families. So those will be in December.
Okay.
So we try to fill the elderly and disabled first.
All right, thank you.
And it's all on the portal? It'll be,
No, this is, will be paper application mailed out. We know that, we have aspirations of getting it streamlined on the portal one day, but right now, our elderly are used to the paper application being mailed out to them every year. And then we also put the, self-addressed stamped envelope in there so they can get, it makes it that much easier
Okay.
for them to get it stuff back to us.
okay, all right, all right. Cody? Melvina?
Jennifer, I don't know if this would be through the elder care program or maybe through the health program. A lady asked me yesterday if there's something for, her son helps her out, cooks for her, cleans her house for her because she's not able to walk very good. And she had heard that there was a program where they could pay him to, but I was thinking it couldn't be a family member or something, but do you know the program?
So if, there are some home health agencies, if the, individual, the elderly individual is on Medicare, Medicaid, they can possibly hire that family member on as like a personal care aide or something like
okay.
that.
Yeah.
But they do have to be tied to that federal
Agency.
Medicaid, Medicare.
Okay.
We have seen that in the past. If they qualify for those in-home services, and then the family member maybe goes in and becomes a personal care
Okay.
aide and gets training in that, then we have seen where family members do that.
Okay.
Now, just to add another, I'll try to be quick, but just to add another layer onto that, if what our program that we have within Human Services and our elder services is a relief for that caregiver. So say that son wants to take some time off. He's like, I need a break. Then they could find someone, and it's called our Elderly Caregiver Program, to give him a relief, to give him respite care. And there's, that's paid out quarterly. So many hours per quarter, that would relieve the son to be able to go and do some stuff that he wants to do and relieve from caregiving for his parent. So I hope that kind of,
Yeah,
that kind of makes
okay.
sense.
Yeah, that
Yep.
makes sense. Thank you.
Cody?
Is there a phone number to call if someone's having technical difficulties with their Angel Tree application on the Gadugi portal?
So the number I'm directed to is the 918-453-5058.
50.
And that's the call center, and then the call center can't answer all their questions. If it's kind of program specific too,
Yeah.
then they transfer them over to ICW
Okay.
to help with. But I understand that, things are coming through with minimal errors right now.
Okay.
So,
All right, thank you.
Dr. Teehee?
I was actually covered by Cody's line of questioning there because I know that the Angel Tree is always a really significant source of challenges on both sides,
Yeah.
for applicants and for the receiving of those applications. So thank you for sharing
Yeah.
that number. That was my
Yeah.
question. Thank you, Chair.
they can also email the angel-project@cherokee.org. And it sounds like, they did do a lot of work ahead of time to try to, again, make it better than it was last year, and always try to improve on the process. The last day for that is the Friday, the October 25th at 5 p.m. So, One of the things that is mentioned is to make sure they upload their documents, because that's something that will kick back an error, and that sometimes delays any further movement if they forget to upload their documents into that, so.
All right. Any other speaker?
Would you make that information available to Gail so she can disseminate to all of us and the tribal council, the dates, the numbers, if they have problems? And also, last year, I know that I was in the office and somebody had came down to see if we could sponsor more. I mean, there were too many, and we were having to get new sponsors. Are you guys trying to maybe prepare for that? I mean, I would assume that it would be even more this year than it was last year. If we weren't able to do them all last year, I mean, have you tried to expand somehow?
So this year, there not any gifts. It's going to be a payment to the eligible families.
Okay.
So,
And card?
electronic payment,
Okay, I
like
see.
much like the clothing assistance. It will be just an electronic payment. And then if they don't accept it in time, then it will be distributed in a check to the address, the mailing address listed on their application. So it gives it back to the family to be able to go buy what they would like.
Right.
And, maybe not everything is at one certain retailer. And so it gives the dignity back to the family to be able to go and buy what gifts they would like.
So
for
will
their family.
that be dictated by, I guess, number in the family, income, stuff like that?
Yes.
About how much they get?
Yeah. It's $75 per child.
Okay. Regardless?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Any other questions? Go ahead.
I just wanted to say that I really appreciate that process. I think that it gives individuals a little bit of independence in making their choices, so
Yeah.
thank you for that.
Yeah, like I said, it's been trial over the years, and then kind of seeing where, and definite support to make that decision to go into a payment form, so, yeah.
Are y'all expecting a big jump in light heat applications?
I do.
I
We
do
have,
too.
we have grown every year. And just different things, especially since COVID and people trying to get back on their feet and different things. But you also got to look at what the trend is in people aging. How many people are going to turn the age to be able to make application for LIHEAP this year. So you always kind of see that, and everyone at that age is usually on a fixed income. And so, yeah, I couldn't even tell you a number, but I would predict an upward trend for sure. We saw it in the other category, the low income category, last year. So I think it was at least double the previous year, so.
I think you're right too, because it seems like we're getting a lot of first-time callers, asking about what they need to do and everything. So
Yeah.
I think it's going to be
Yeah.
big.
And they either have to go with us or the state. Now, sometimes when they apply for some certain state benefits, they are automatically signed up for LIHEAP, so they can't apply with us. And we do have a relationship with the state where we do send them information, and they let us know, hey, this person is on ours, this person is not on our program, or this person is on our program. So we do try to work that out.
Lisa?
Jennifer, what's the age to make the application for an elder?
62.
62.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? All right, Jennifer. Good to see you.
Thank you.
Appreciate all you do. Next up, Michael Lynn.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. Apologize for not being able to be present last month. I think Billy Hicks stood in for me and gave our report. Councilor McGady, it's good to see you. It's the first time I've got to report in front of you. Congratulations on your appointment once again, and yes, good to see you here. You guys do have a copy of our monthly report. I'd be glad to answer any questions. We've got a lot going, a lot of projects and just a lot of different phases, all the way from water and wastewater projects to road and bridge projects. We've got a pre-construction meeting scheduled next week for a project over in the western part of Cherokee County around the Lost City area for an overlay in that particular area. That project has been awarded to a contractor out of Podo. So we've got that scheduled next week. But I'll be glad, Mr. Chair, to answer any questions that you might have.
You bet. Anyone have any questions for Michael Lynn? Speaker?
I know we've already contracted it out, but the bridge is at Wycliffe. Do you know anything about them, completion date?
I don't have a completion date. I know they're back working on them,
Yes.
but I don't know what their anticipated completion date is, but I can check on that and let you know.
I've had some pissed
Been
off
getting
people.
calls?
Oh,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah.
All right, thanks.
I'll check on that.
Thank you.
Anyone else? If not, Michael, we appreciate you.
Yes, sir. Thank you all. Appreciate you.
Moving on, we're going to go with the Veterans Center, Barbara Foreman first. Todd with Housing has a presentation for us, so if y'all want to get out of here afterwards, that's fine.
Good afternoon, council. You have our report. Do you have any questions?
Anyone have any questions for Veterans Services? Go ahead, Julie.
I just want to say y'all hit another home run on the Warriors flight. I was lucky enough to get to go with y'all, and you're like a well-oiled machine, and they enjoyed it so much, and it was just awesome trip, and y'all did a great job.
Thank you, Mr. Smith, and thank you for going with us. We appreciate you on that.
Melana.
And Mr. Deere.
Barbara, what day is the Veterans Activities for Veterans Day this next month?
We're going to do something on November the 8th. We'll probably have the regular wreath laying, and we probably will feed our veterans after that. December 20th, we will have our Veterans Christmas. And we plan to do it at the center. It'll probably be pretty packed. But they just love to be together, you know, in a big group like that, and they love to go to the center, honestly. Let's see, let me think. We'll have Warrior Flight again coming up for any of you other council that would like to go. We're having one March the 10th is our next date, and tentative September 15th of this next year. We work really early on these, you know, to get them well-oiled or, you know, to get it in place. So, anything else?
Anyone? Go ahead.
I was wondering, I had a couple of gentlemen that were obviously Cherokee citizens who are interested in participating in a Warrior Flight. They're veterans. How would one go about getting them potentially involved in that?
Okay. First, and you'll see that tonight, and you may have already seen it too, they have to receive the Medal of Patriotism first and be honored in that way. And then they receive a free brick at the memorial after that, and then they're eligible to get the application for the Warrior Flight.
Anyone
And
else?
we just need their names or phone numbers, whatever you want to give us, email, and we'll get the applications to them.
Speaker.
Real quick, Barbara, I think you probably already do give us those dates, but if you would get with Gail and make sure we have all those dates for what's going on at the center.
Yes,
please.
sir.
All right, thank you.
Anyone else? All right, Barbara, we appreciate you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
You bet. All right, next up, Todd Enlow with Housing.
Good afternoon, council. I see that you're speed reading through those 42 pages of that report. I'll accept questions at the end of this presentation, but make sure that they are thoughtful and commensurate with the study that went along with this. Real quick, before I get started on the actual presentation, I do want to update you on a couple of things. So in September, we started accepting electronic payment. That's credit cards, online payment using ACH, credit or debit cards. Our acceptance rate has been somewhere around 6 to 7% so far for that group. But October started first payments for those homeowners or those leased to own in the homeownership model. So low rent's about 1,000 units. Homeownership is about 1,500 units. So today is the first day that they actually can start to make their payments for homeownership. So to divide up the workload so we're not overloading everybody on the first, those in a homeownership model start payments on the 15th. Low rent units, we accept payments starting on the 1st. So we split those two groups up. So today's the very first day that those in lease-to-own new construction homeownership can make their payment either in person with a credit card or they can go online and fill out and use credit card, debit card, or ACH payment as well. So.
Awesome. Thank you, Todd.
And we are working on, next round's going to be for insurance. Those homeowners that don't live in one of the houses or rental units that we have, and they can do insurance through us, through Amerant. And there's a little more than 2,000 in that group. So we're doing some data conversion to get ready for that. Okay? Okay. So you have the 42-page housing report. Last month, I think it was last month, we teased that a little bit with your review and consideration of the housing jobs permanency, the act that you guys approved last month. And so this is phase one of the housing study. Phase one is the 14-county jurisdiction. It's looking at Cherokee citizens that live inside the reservation. Phase two is going to be for Cherokee County and Tahlequah, and it's a little bit more in depth, and it's going to look at total population, not just Cherokee citizens, but total population that lives inside Cherokee County. So what I'm going to present to you today, I think it's 25 slides. I'm going to talk fast, but if I talk too fast, please let me know. There's a lot of information. I want to get you out of here on time. So this is pretty high level. I want to give you some time to review this document and study it. And then if you have questions in the future, but I wanted to present to you some of the highlights out of the report to look at. So the background, we hired Development Strategies. Development Strategies has worked on a couple of projects in and around Oklahoma. I became familiar with them with some of the work they did in Tulsa, the city of Tulsa. They did a housing study there, and so we engaged Development Strategies. One of the reasons we did that is we wanted experts in the field. We wanted a third-party review to validate information and provide this to us, so it's a true study. We just didn't pencil whip numbers to throw it at you. And then this is looking at a 10-year demand. So some of the terms you're going to hear me say are going to be pent-up demand and the 10-year demand. Pent-up is meaning those people that are waiting for services. They're in our queue. They're already part of our system. We know about them, and so that's the pent-up demand. Those are people that are actively waiting. The 10-year demand are those future projections based on population shifts, people moving in, people, like as Jennifer pointed out in her talk, those that may be reaching of age, so future homeowners that may be 16 now, in 10 years are going to be 26-year-olds and looking for housing. So you guys all know about Housing Job Sustainable Communities Act. Originally you put $30 million in there. That was in 2019. That $30 million was set aside specifically for rehabs. And then in 22, you authorized $120 million to go towards housing jobs. Of that 120 million, about 104 million went to housing-related specific projects that the Housing Authority manages. But a lot of times, we leverage the Indian Housing Block Grant, IHBG. It's part of the NAHASDA funding formula. And so this year, we got 49.2 million. On a typical year prior to this, we received about 38 million. So that, I tried to point that out in our discussion, but that 38 million compared to the 120 million that Chief proposed and you guys authorized has made a tremendous impact on addressing the housing need. So how demand's calculated? We looked at waiting list from the Housing Authority. We assess households in homelessness, systems of care, the housing condition and deficiency data that comes from the census data, population and household growth trends, housing markets. So we surveyed some of the housing trends such as Zillow and other market indicators in the area. We were also talking to real estate agents and looking at their market trend analysis, and then looking at migration and job patterns and projections. So what that tells us is some of this information. And so you'll notice that there's population trends and housing trends, and looking at the total general population inside the 14 county jurisdiction. If you guys will note, and I'm a former GIS guy, so it bugs me to see our reservation boundary in Wagner County, Muskogee, and McIntosh is not actually our jurisdictional reservation boundary. That is census data. That's as close as we can get with census blocks to be able, so it's not quite, but it's a pretty good representation. So if you're a GIS buff and a history buff, you'll notice that it's close, but it's not 100% accurate. So that's based on as close as we can get with census tracts. And so you've got total general population, American Indian, mixed race population, and then the housing trends. I'll not bore you with all the details, so you guys can study the reports, but I want to show you and explain a little bit on some of that. So some of the challenges we had with data is Census Bureau is not the Cherokee Nation. Cherokee Nation knows more about our citizens, and in Census Bureau, you self-identify which tribe you're affiliated with. We have some folks that believe they are and have never registered, and we've got some folks that have been citizens since birth, but they don't check the correct box on the census data, so it's all self-identifying. And so there's going to be variances in some of that data, so we tried to extrapolate some of that as best we could across the system. I shared this map with you last time. And in the very back, in the appendix, you will find a series of maps. And it's looking at each one of those rated criterias that are in the table to the right. Those are the percentages that were assigned to each one of those indicators of what the housing need is across the reservation. And those additional maps that you find in your appendix are all merged together to create this heat map, which is kind of the consolidated, telling us based on population trends and housing trends, this is where we have the greatest need for housing. It's either substandard or doesn't exist. And so the areas in the darkest gray are the areas that have the greatest need. The areas in the darkest greens are the areas that have the least amount of housing need inside the reservation. So example is, if you look in North Tulsa, just inside a reservation boundary, that has some of the darkest grays that we have across the reservation. Some of the darkest greens are just immediately to the east in Rogers County in and around Claremore. But in the other anomaly, as I indicated last time, a lot of the population stacks up on top of on Stillwell in Adair County because of the 911 addressing. So that's a little bit of an anomaly, but you'll see you'll see the pockets there where the population and housing data tells us that there's need. Now doesn't say that's exactly where the need is, but that's what the population is telling us. Here's some of the information, and we broke it down into this Northeast, Capital North, Capital South, Capital Northwest, and Tulsa. So these are population centers and growth with similar social economic conditions. So Cherokee County kind of stood out on its own. But we, for example, in Capital South, grouped Adair, Sequoia, McIntosh, and Muskogee counties together, just based on the data that we were seeing. So you'll see in those areas what the total population looks like. And so if you factor in all of that population, it's about 668,000, almost 669,000 citizens that live inside the reservation boundary. So the share of Cherokee Nation citizens fluctuates through that total population. Again, that information is based on self-identification. That's from the census data. That's not saying that's what our Cherokee Nation data states. So, population growth rate. This is comparing 2020 or 2014 to 2024, or sorry, 2010 to 2024. You'll see that population, total population in the Northeast has decreased by 6%, but the American Indian population has increased by 10%. So what that means is our citizens are moving into the area, whereas total population has decreased. Notice Tulsa County. Tulsa County has had a 3% growth, but 74% in Native American population. Again, some of that may be askew because of self-reporting, and they didn't report it accurately in 2010, but now they're proud to be Cherokee and living inside the Cherokee Nation, and now they're reporting it either correctly or hopefully. But that shows you this is what's occurred in the last 14 years with population, both total and Native American. So population trends, declines in household sizes and the number of family households, a growing demand of smaller unit types for rentals and for sale housing. It's one of the things we saw in the total analysis. The other bold point in there is households may increasingly seek out multi-generational living arrangements, typically consistent of larger homes or homes with accessory dwelling units. And this goes to an elder moving in, a grandparent moving in to help with the family, and either having accessory dwelling unit in the backyard, or they moved into another bedroom, or the family moved in with grandparents. So that's commensurate with Cherokee values and elders and staying close with the family. Unhoused population, that number has grown. You'll note that one study, for instance, found that 17% of American Indian households surveyed reported hosting another person or persons who would otherwise be homeless. So they're not counted specifically as homeless, but they're unhoused. And then the growing risk of unsheltered homelessness in Cherokee Nation and Tulsa, specifically a situation only compounded by increases in the cost of living. So if you look at the total cost of living in the area, it's only getting worse for those that are unhoused. It's getting more and more difficult. Job growth projections. Projected to add about 11,000 jobs from 2020 to 2030. So in the next 10 years, Northeast Oklahoma metropolitan area will see an increase of about 11,000, almost 12,000 jobs. And Tulsa, the metropolitan statistical area, is expected to grow by 40,500 jobs. So across the reservation, you're looking at a little more than 52,000 jobs to be created in the next 10 years. I'll just jump down to the last bullet. The other bullets talk about restaurant workers, home health, personal care aides are some of the careers. The others are registered nurses, nursing assistants, medical and health service-related jobs are the major growers of those job creations inside the reservation. And so the final bullet there says, workforce housing development in the region needs to target affordability levels that are attainable for individuals and households that will occupy these growing jobs over the coming decade. So adding 50,000 more jobs, and those are going to be the areas which are located. So now we start to look at household income and what some of that data looks like. And you'll see a large group that live in that region of 25,000 to 50,000. There has been a little bit of growth from 2010 to 2022 in the 50 to 75K. So we've been able to make some improvements across the reservation for total household population or income for those that are below 15,000, so it actually dropped just a little bit. So defining affordability is an important step in quantifying what we're looking at. What can people afford in the housing market? Whether rent or home ownership, what can everybody afford? So we can go build all the housing we want, but can people afford it? This is another chart that I shared with you the last time, and what this breaks down is from extremely low income, very low income, moderate, and then high income. And it shows you the strata of household units. Again, pent-up demand are going to be those items that are in the dotted color. The growth need that we project for each one of those is in the solid color. So for example, the home ownership opportunities on extremely low income is very minimal. All of our work needs to be done in the rental income area. Okay, so those, if you'll notice, they're below 30% of the area median income, and they make less than $26,000 a year. The likelihood of them being able to afford a house is pretty minimal. And so we should be focused, obviously, on rentals. And on the far end of the scale, there's very few rentals. Most of that is home construction. This is a breakdown. We shared with you about almost 9,500 total units for the 10-year cumulative demand that are projected. The pent-up demand is about 6,500 of that roughly 9,500 units. So that 6,500 are people that are actively waiting, working somewhere in our application systems, either for temporary rental assistance, low rent, home ownership. There's that many people that are eager for services right now. So this goes back to that, how is demand calculated? We looked at all of those things, all of the data, the population, income, and that's the number that it comes out to. Between 8,800 and 9,400 units are needed over the next 10 years inside the reservation. The breakdown of that is about, if you take the average between that, about 5,500 units needed for rentals, and we're going to need about 3,500 units for sale housing units. So there is no spectrum or no group in that spectrum that doesn't need housing. So we've got it across all spectrums. The greatest need is those lower to middle range in the income spectrum. Larger housing that serves larger and intergenerational families. And then there's a need to create more options, particularly for sale for high income earners. So the whole gamut is ultimately what the study says. I'm going to skip through this for time. The distribution of these units, the thing I want to point out on this one, and you guys can take some time to look at it, is the top color, that dark purple. Those are manufactured homes. manufactured homes are prevalent in several of our communities, not all, but several. And that is one of the biggest demands that we have for rehab. And 9 times out of 10, they are recommended for replacement because they deteriorate and they can't maintain that home ownership. So that's actually one of the things we've written a grant for. Hopefully, we'll find out next month on whether we get that. It'll be specifically for manufactured housing, and this is the price grant, the price opportunity. I think I briefed you on it several months ago. I'm hoping we get that grant because it'll go to a lot of this need for manufactured housing. This is some Zillow data. Councilor Paskowski, unfortunately, the Northwest Territory took a dip. Every other area has seen continued increase in home values and home sales, but the Northwest area took a dip in about 22 and is on a downward trend at the moment. So home ownership looks a little bit better in up in that Northwest area, Bartlesville, Washington County area. So talk a little bit about gap. The gap is what's going to be needed. And so the dark blue in this bar chart represents in every area how much money and what percentage is going to be needed to cover the gap. That means it's not going to be covered by private equity investment or growth. That's for the whole area, that's how much gap that we have. So $15 million of a gap for subsidized housing. There's not an identified earmarker for us to be able to accomplish that at this point. Rental market, if you look at this distribution on how rentals are offered up in each of our towns and communities, so Owasso has 20% of the market share for rentals. Tulsa County has 18%. Bartlesville has 15%. Tahlequah has 12%. Claremore 10%. Pryor, and 20% is all the other towns. This slide to the right, the chart to the right, I should say, shows you what the average rental increase has been since 2014 to 2024. It's grown from, in several of those clusters, about $700 a month to over $1,000. I will tell you just by looking in Tahlequah, if you're going to rent a 3-bedroom house, you're going to pay $2,000, $1,800 to $2,000. So even that information is a little bit lower than anecdotally what we see on the street. So this is the rental gap. The rental gap shows you that we have about a $250 to $310 million gap for funding. It's not identified currently. There's no resources currently available for that. And so we've got to figure out some way to try and cover that difference over the next 10 years. So you add those, you add the for sale gap and the rental gap, those two items combined together. So the theory is private investment will cover about $1.2 to $1.45 billion of that. And then there's a funding gap of about 32%, and that's about $550 million or $600 to $650 million. So total investment needed across the reservation is $1.75 billion to $2.1 billion. And there's a gap where we don't have a plan for of about roughly $600 million over the next 10 years. That was some of the most boring information I will ever give you. Now, you bet. So you have the report. We are going to post this online as well. I want to make sure we present it to you. I'm going to present it tonight to our Housing Authority Board of Commissioners as well. And then this will go out to the public to share. So that's a tall order. And since we presented those numbers to you originally, I have been thinking about this night and day, and how do we solve the housing crisis that's before us. And there are several different strategies that we're approaching. I don't think I remarked last time, but we have, in the last year, we've applied for about $120 million of grants. We're still waiting to hear on several of those. We're going to continue. That's going to be one of our strategic efforts, is to try and inject federal dollars to help this. One of the things I personally hope is, with this housing study, we can sit down with HUD and share what the demand is inside the reservation. And it helps us paint a picture of creating the demand better than just what HUD calculates their demand on. And then we are working to look at low-income housing tax credits. You will see that inside our report as some of the offerings of potential opportunities to build more. The challenges with low-income housing tax credits is that we cannot make a preference for Cherokee citizens. It's going to be open and available to anybody. So the theory would be, with low-income housing tax credits, we can try to serve as many Cherokee citizens as we can, but we may be serving other races and nationalities that may live inside the reservation boundary as well. So we're doing lots of study, doing lots of research, planning, gearing up for this. Obviously, housing jobs will add to that with its permanency, and I'm working on the 3-year plan right now. So I'll present it to you hopefully within the next 30 days.
And Todd, did you tell us that it costs $235,000 now to build a 3-bedroom home?
Yeah, I mean, that cost fluctuates a little bit based on location, but yeah, by the time you put in a septic system, you pour a driveway, or, you don't pour a driveway, but we get the driveway, we clear the property, connect it, if it's not a septic system, it's connected to city sewer. If we have to drill a well, it's typically $25,000.
I got you. It's not just building the house. It's
so the total.
Constructing a street, maybe to a resident,
Yeah, the highest we've seen on a house, it was a 5-bedroom, 2-bath, built in Sequoia County. Total development cost, house was $252,000. Total development cost was right at $300,000.
They do 5 bedrooms now?
We do have a 5-bedroom plan. It's only one option in the 5-bedroom.
Oh, really?
And it's based on household composition.
Got you.
Yep.
Okay. Speaker?
Just to let you all know, ENF was supposed to start at 4:30. Not saying this is, we're good. We're good.
Sorry.
But no, you're good. We needed to hear this. It's pretty eye-opening. We needed to see it. We'll start ENF as soon as this is over. You might tell your people that, Josh, your presenters, that we'll probably just do reports only, if that's okay with you. Okay, and all 4 items need to go to full council tonight. But no, I'm not. I'm just saying, it's eye-opening, and it's a good report.
Thank you, and I do apologize to the treasurer.
No, you're good. You're good, sir.
Especially the treasurer. God, she's going to cut my budget so hard right now.
All right.
Well, I appreciate your indulgence, and you've got the report, and thank you very much.
Do we have any questions for Todd? All right, Todd, we appreciate you. Thank you so
All
much.
right, thank you.
All right, moving on. Old business, done pending. New business, done pending. Announcements. Next meeting is tentatively scheduled for November 12th at 3 p.m. And I need one more. Go ahead.
I just want to say, the Greater Tulsa Indian Affairs Commission held their Tulsa Indigenous Day. And Josh and them held theirs. But we had 2 get lifetime awards. Bill Lowry, one of our former veterans, or not former, but veteran that just went on the trip with EO. And then Hona Hazipta got the educational award for that. So I just want to say that, and we held our third annual powwow. So congratulations to those guys that got that Lifetime Achievement Award. That's all I had. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. Anyone else? All right, if not, I need one more motion. So moved. All in favor? All right.